Okay, so let's check out. Uh, okay, I want to check out a particular repository. Let me quickly see. Um, Let me quickly see how that works. It's called the Novi app. Let's check that out. Let's quickly tell the member that we're doing that. Okay, so let me see what we have here. So this is for again, a particular member of the Discord channel that you're all free to join and ask for code reviews if you want to. What we're going to do, let me quickly see if the output works. Yeah. What we're going to do is we're going to look at this from, okay, how do we stage a project, right? So there's an API and then there's an app. There's a dump PHP. Let's look at that first. Okay. That will not really help us. API, and then here's the app. Okay, what's in the index? Let's start with that. Maybe the location is app. Okay. I would say let's just run it. Let's just run it. So let me see how that actually looks like. So we're here now in Novi App 3. Let's create a little thing for that and say, okay, we're going to go to localhost Novi App 3. Wait, Novi App 3. Okay, so far so good. So far so good. So I have naturally the issue that I cannot really read what's happening here, but we can basically see, okay, so this is home. Yeah, this doesn't do anything. So I can more or less see what it's doing by hovering over it and then see, okay, this goes to Cessnam PHP, this goes to Do Dutch. Okay, let's just try this out. Oh, this doesn't do anything. Wait, why? So this seems to be the same. Okay. Uh-huh. So that's already pretty interesting that it doesn't really navigate. Let's see why it's the case. So in our index, right, we go to location app. Okay, so far so good. That's where we are. And then in our app, we basically have to see. So what we would expect now is that now we're going to go to cessnam.php, which is this file, right? And the question is, okay, what does this do? Right, and it doesn't really seem to do anything so far. And what I'm interested in is actually the following. I'm going to say, hey, why am I not here? Right, okay, here's direct.js. Why am I not here? Is there an HD access maybe? There is not. There is not. Okay. So I expect to see a table here, which I don't, which is pretty interesting. So let's see what the network says. If I reload this page, so it does go to this, and okay. And that's all I see here, right? And as you can see, now regardless of what this is doing, this is what I would expect to see, which I don't see here. So the question is, why is that? So let's debug it from a high level and say, hey, let's just create maybe a breakpoint here. Click on the listener, make sure that our debug is on, and then reload. And okay, so now we basically see what's happening, and this finished without. Okay, so we didn't even get here. Let's see why that's the case. So my first question, it would be, well, what if we ignore that one? What happens then? Same thing here. Okay. Does the app have an index? It does not. Oh, it does. It does have an index. Aha. It does have an index. And that's the index I'm expecting to see, right? Our header. Gotta stop the debug session and let's basically see. Let's see what's happening here. Then session start. Yeah, I guess that works. And then we have this one, this shared inc PHP. Let's see what that is. Okay, that is irrelevant for us. And then the func inc. Okay, so here we say we're getting from the .env, which doesn't exist here. Okay, so none of this should return null. Function get var. Okay. So the reason why you don't want to call this get var is because there is a native PHP get var, right, that I can call. As you can see, I can just call that, and I would not overwrite it, you know, like any kind of native functions. But that shouldn't be the issue. So then we get all of this, and then we're going to try a connection. Okay, fair enough. And then we should see this, right? Or the header. Hold on, let's look at the header quickly. Where are you? Okay, so that's what we see, right? That makes sense. So that's the header. And then that's the footer. Right, then that's main, and then we have the footer. Okay, so far so good. So the problem that we have with this is more or less that that the question is, okay, so what do we have here in main? Where's our header? Doesn't exist. Yeah, this doesn't execute. That's actually the funny part, right? That's the funny part. If we say die here, then we would expect it to die. So the Cessnam PHP does not, even though we directly go there. App. Yeah, this does not get executed. This does not get executed, and no, okay. This is really interesting in a different language. If you had required task PHP, you should see the table. Yeah, well, so my first question is a different one, right? Is, okay, why am I not an app? Why am I not an app? Oh, there's an htaccess. Never mind. Okay, I didn't see that one. Okay, and then it always goes to index PHP. Okay, got it. And then, okay, there's an htaccess. It always goes to index. Okay, I see. Not that one though. This one. So always goes here. Then we read this, and then you always have the main, and then here is the task PHP. So there's no router yet. Okay, understood. That's how you do it. Okay, and then you go with the task PHP, and then it says here, because task PHP does what? Okay, that's your router. Got it. So okay. Okay, let's have a look at that. So if the case is, then cleaning is true. And include our Cessnam. Okay. So if you, let's start on a high level, right? If you require this here, then you don't need to do this here again. This is completely irrelevant. I mean, you do the require once, so it's also not going to hurt, but it doesn't make any kind of sense. So this should still work, and now we are here. So let's just assume we're running here. We're trying to get the database connection, and unfortunately, nope. Yeah, okay, that creates a dump. Okay. Oh, dump for, okay, I thought it's like a database dump. Okay. Didn't you say you included a SQL file for the database? Or did I? No, okay. Doesn't matter. Oh, it is egress. Oh, there it is. Indeed, there it is. Yeah, let's quickly do that. Maybe let's quickly create that and say sudo MySQL. Okay. What do we have here? Create table. Okay, so let's say create database egress. Okay, use that one. Okay, and then we say source app, oops, egress.sql. Okay, so far so good. Let's look at this. Let's look at this. Root and database is egress. Yep. Okay. Perfect. We want to get rid of the collation and user here and only look at the database itself. And there is one table in here. Okay, fair enough, but that should work. Wait, is there one table in there? Yeah, there's only one table in there. Okay, that's fair enough. So now we can recognize this, as you can see, and that is good. Then we execute the prepared statement and we get the array out. So let's make a breakpoint here. Actually, let's make a let's make a breakpoint here. Listen to this. And what we are going to do now is to say, okay, let's see what's happening. So here we see, let's do that one. Here we can basically see nothing yet. We're going to step down one. Yeah, we're going to step down one, and now we have our array that already has a, okay, some kind of, wait, why is this ID 01? Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Okay. Uh-huh. Unlike what fetch all returns, but okay, fair enough. So then we have that here. Let's actually go on and see what the output of that is. So that's the table. That's the table, fair enough. Unknown database. Let me see where that issue comes along. Is there another one here? No. Okay, what does this do? Then you say click function. Let's see, index +1. Okay. Okay. And you go to the app view ID. Okay. Is this in the for each? It is. Okay. Well, the question is, where is your JS? Oh, okay, then do it here. Click function. Okay. Yeah. So you can abstract stuff like that pretty easily, right? So let's say you want to do stuff like that, right? And say, okay, so you go by class here, right? Which I don't know if the del button, yeah, that's how the class works. Okay, so let's start by simplifying markup. Okay, so if you write like that, you can shorten this form a little bit and say, hey, if I'm only going to echo something, you can write it like that, right? That's absolutely fine. Then you don't even need this one, but it also doesn't hurt. So that makes your life a little bit easier from a reading perspective, because then you know that you're just outputting a variable of some sort. So here that's the href, that's fine. Let's keep that as it is. Let's just make this a little bit more readable here. Okay. Okay. Now, what you can do in those kind of things, right? Because okay, this is maybe on a very high level, but if you think about it, like okay, what you're creating now is a bunch of jQuery selectors, and if you think about it from a little bit of a higher perspective, right, where you say okay, so in theory, if you say I'm outside of the for each here in my script, and then you basically say, hey, so I want to listen to something. Let's play around with that maybe for a second. So let's make this a let's give this actually like a class delete button. That's fine. And here we say data ID. Okay, just as an example. And then you basically say, okay, so what you really want to have, right, is to say a document, and forgive me, but I'm not going to use jQuery, query selector all, and then you say dot delete button. Okay, so now I've got all the delete buttons selected. Then I say for each, and then I have my button. And what I have now is to basically say, okay, so I do have the following possibility now. I do know what the data ID is, right? I can read that with the data set, and I can simply attach a click. So I can basically say button.add event listener, click, and then I have an event, and then I can basically do let me quickly get the ID just so you see that. That would then be my button dataset dot ID. Okay, so that's the ID that you're asking, and then you want to do a confirm, right? Is that what's happening here? Button show del OK. Where's your del OK? Okay, and you do that for each 1, 2. Del OK. Yeah, okay, let's assume that that is how you want to do it. Actually, I should probably quickly say, I should quickly look at this first, how you want this to look like. So this is a del OK whatever. And by the way, if you're generating those like that, then you might as well use an ID, right, if they're all unique. But here, so I'm yeah, okay, let's see how that looks like in a second. I'm going to basically now make that pretty simple and say confirm, and say if confirm right, then delete, and I don't know what that exactly is. What is the delete? Confirm delete. Then we say, okay, href app URL app delete ID. Okay, sure, let's do that. Then window dot location dot href equals okay, and then here my what's it called, get app URL. get app URL, and then app delete plus ID. Okay, so now I don't have a confirm yet, but what I can do then is to say, okay, function confirm, and in that case I'm just going to say let's call this confirm delete, because the reason for that is that I quickly want to do a return of confirm, are you sure? Just from a principle. Okay, let's see how that looks like. So is this delete? View1, edit, this one, okay. Wait, I have to get rid of the other stuff, of course. So let's get rid of the breakpoint altogether and stop listening to that. And see how that looks like. Okay. That does not work. Oh, I have no jQuery. Interesting. Okay. I have no jQuery included here. Well, let's actually do just this. And same here. Okay. This doesn't seem to fire a click event. Let's see why that's the case. Let's quickly see what that does. Okay, is that the wrong button? Am I looking at the wrong button? So where is it? Yeah, that one is delete. I'm going to do this for now so I can read it. Okay, add event instantly click for the button. So that should work in theory. The question is now delete button. Oh, I didn't name that correctly. Okay. Okay, I'm going to cancel. So we're going to make that a little bit prettier. But in theory, that's what we want to show. Okay, and then you don't need this anymore. And what is the third button? Del CCL. Hide. What is cancel? Oh, cancel. Okay, got it. I got it. So okay, let's assume that we don't need that one either. And then here we probably want to do something a little bit nicer. That basically says, okay, or actually let's leave that as a functional standpoint for now. So let's try if we can delete that. So let's do this again and say, okay, so test, let's delete this. Okay. And then we are at delete, app delete 3. So let's see what the problem here is. Delete 3. Okay, let's do the delete the test again. So here the test. It's number 4. Okay. So why doesn't it work is the question. And we have to see why that's the case. Yep. Okay. So this is app delete. So since you have this router here, we probably have to look into the index and see. No, where did you put this again? In the task PHP, right? That's your routers to task PHP. And say delete app delete. Well, you don't have a logic for this. All right, you're in the else. So that means that we're in this still. Let me see if we have any kind of delete logic here. Yeah. Yeah, this doesn't do anything, of course. Why would it? So the problem that you have here is that, okay, so you're going to app delete. I cannot see that anywhere defined here. Oh, here it is, delete. Hold on. And is there get ID? Okay. Yeah. So here's the thing. Here's the thing is I don't think that this is get ID, is it? Where's our get? Yeah. So the get in that case is index PHP is the task. Which is quite interesting. Yeah. That's the problem that you have here. That's the problem that you have here. Okay. So as you can see, it interprets this as the task being index PHP. And the reason for that is actually pretty simple. If you look into your htaccess, what you see is that, okay, so the task is the first thing that is basically done after 1, 2. Yeah, so this would be here, and these two. What? I see what's happening here. Yeah, so that's already firing, right? If we were to take this out, then you can no, it matches. This doesn't match because, okay, so without one, let's get this off here. Sorry, stop, and do it again. Do it again. Let's go to the htaccess file. Where are we here? There. So you are here. Okay, so we have app but that can happen as many times as I want to. So why wouldn't it work on this? Because of the task, huh? There's no dot anywhere. Okay. Okay, so anything without a slash. Yeah. That's the right rule. And if we have, let's go back here. If we have this in, okay, that would take hit $1. So this one, yeah, I don't know. Why? Can I ask you why did you decide to do it this way? Is there a reason for this htaccess logic? Okay, which means you have to use it. Okay, fair enough. So if you think about it, right, and say, what happens, what do I get here? And that's basically what you want to do. If this is your router, and you say, okay, so if you don't have that, let's kick in the debug and say, okay, let's visit this page. Then what you can see in the get is that the task is interpreted as index PHP, right? That's just always the case. As long as it's not advanced. I don't even know what that is supposed to mean. But so if I step into this, right, and that's a little bit the issue. If I step into this, then you will basically see that that's why you go into the else. You're not really going to this page here, right? This will always basically be, okay, the task is index PHP. And so the reason for that already starts with the problem that you have with your general setup here, right? That you basically say, okay, so from here you redirect in, and then it's going to hit the index PHP here, right? So you're going to hit the index PHP here, and that's always going to be the case. So in the htaccess, what you do from this on, I mean, you could probably fix this somehow. Actually, that's might even be the trick. Let's see if we can fix this. If we basically say rewrite base, and then we say app. Okay, let's have a look at that quickly. No, actually, we want to listen to it. Okay. Novi app 3. Okay. Okay. We still get the index. It doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference. We have to write the htaccess. Yeah, that's basically the problem. So we're always going to end up here, regardless of what we're going to do here. Now you have a second problem with that approach, right? And that is that, okay. So let's get rid of this again. The second problem that you have is that if you have relative stuff in there, which and that's why you don't see it right now. So this is loading, you know, this because that's what it defaults to, and then in your header, and it's the problem with this whole approach here. You've got relative linkings here, right? And that's why the CSS doesn't work. As soon as you basically are in a different context than you think you are. And that is the reason why if I do stuff like, okay, let's actually do this now and say, sure, go ahead. If I click on anything, right, then I'm going to come here again. I'm going to now be on delete 0. And now from that perspective, I'm including the header, and now the CSS cannot be found. Right here, you can actually see it, the issue. Here, app delete, la la la, still.css, right? That doesn't exist. It's just the mimi type is different because it's in reality it's a 404, of course. So so that's a little bit the issue. Now, what you can do in a relatively simple way, because you don't have to get rid of the get, right? If you look at how this is done, you could more or less say like, well, can I not simplify this down? Can I not simplify this down? That's probably what you want to do. Let me actually quickly find a... One second. Let me quickly see the easiest implementation of this. Yeah, that's basically all you want to do. That's basically all you want to do. So here we are simply saying, okay, and then query string, and yeah, and here we say whatever, right? Yeah, whatever. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's quickly see. Oops. Let's quickly see. So let's click on the listener again and say, let's see what that does. That doesn't work, I guess. Why not? Anything? Oh yeah. So what we need is a trailing slash in that case. Okay. So let's look at the get. Now we have the task. Okay. Yeah. And then let's prettify this a little bit. So that's so far so good. Let's make this pretty. And then you don't need this crap anymore. Well, that's anyway in the okay. Okay, fair enough. So that's in the in the header. Get var. Okay. App Okay, that's an interesting way of doing this. Yeah, you don't want to write it that way. You don't want to write it that way at all. You want to write it that way, right? And say, okay, sysnum. That's what you want to do. Okay. So let's actually close this quickly, and so go to just app. Okay. Then now let's go here. Oh. What did I break? What did I break? Let's kick it on again. Oops. Hello? Oh, I'm missing the app. Hold on. That makes perfect sense. I'm missing the app. Okay. Yeah, do that. Do that. Okay, and let's do it again. Get task system. Okay, so far so good. So far so good. Now in the header, so I can do that. In the header files, what you want to do is the following. So first of all, when you have this here, right, what you want to do here is to say, well, let's make sure and that's the next problem, that this is then not reachable, right? Let's quickly do a no, let's see. I want to see, okay, so that's fine. I should finally get rid of this breakpoint and then go on. But we have the problem now that we probably don't have, yeah, so here we don't include, so here's what we need to do. Right, so in the index PHP, okay, you require this, that's fair. And then your routing happens somewhere else. Then you have the task, okay. And then you require those things. So in the header, let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of this. And the question now is, why doesn't this work, right? That's basically what we want to figure out. Okay. Let's step in. Constants here. Okay, this is true. Fair enough. Or gets is that one. Okay, fair enough. And of course, since you can't, I can't even read that probably, huh? Where's my app URL? I can't see that. Okay, got it. I actually can't even test this. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Let's do it like this. Novi app. No, that exists. That exists. Okay. So why doesn't it work with our sysnum? got it. That is not the app URL. Okay. I don't like that naming. So what you should do, actually, to be honest with you, is this is not your app URL, right? This would actually be your app URL. Okay. Right, and then you can write it basically in this pattern. And what you can also do then is to say, okay, let me see if that's even correct. Where's your stuff here? What's it called? Style. CSS style. Okay. Okay, so that's in here. Got it. Got it. Then you basically place this here. Let's see if we have an env. App trash. Local. Okay. Never mind. So this guy, like that. And again, you can make that a little bit, oops, easier on the eyes if you want to. Hey Clown Boots, how's it going? Oh, you've got your own, what the hell is that? Get your own emoticon somehow? Okay. So, okay. So now this basically fires. So, but let's talk about like if this is something that we really want to do, right? So if you say, okay, so in your task PHP, if you go to the delete, if I can actually find this, here you go. Task is delete, and then you know, get a particular ID. Prec match pattern, okay. Not even sure why you do that, but fair enough. Then you say, okay, then this PHP file gets included, right? Which does what? Deleted at now. Okay, so here you simply say, why does this red? Unable to resolve column. Deleted at. Because you don't have that in here. Yeah. Delete it at. So I'm assuming that it will be date time, as you say now, and that it's null. Okay. And we probably want to be sure that that's in here as well. So let's more or less just duplicate this one. Say deleted at timestamp not null. Yeah, this is null. And it defaults to null. Okay. So then we have this one done. I'm helping out a Discord member with some code today. And basically, at the moment, I'm just exploring the project. Okay, so if you have, if you want to execute this, right, then the question that you could ask yourself is, well, what do you do here when you're done? So you're redirecting here. You're redirecting back to app, right? So then you fall into the same view again. You can do that, of course, right? So let's try out if that works so far. So in our task, if where we would end up now is Actually, let's clear up here a little bit and see. So this needs to be delete and then ID, and this will of course. Before you do stuff like this, make your life easier and say like, okay, so you're going to use task for routing, and the rest you could simply going to use as actual parameters, right? So in here, where did we write the JavaScript for it? Where did we do that? Here. We can basically say, hey, let's actually make this a get parameter, right? Just to be sure that that's the case. And then app delete, okay. Get var app URL / app. Yeah, okay. So that should basically work. Let's try it out. That's what will happen. So I'm now clicking on, I'm going to delete the test. I am sure. Okay. And I got back here without anything happening. So I went through this process apparently. Let's be a little bit, let's set a couple of breakpoints here to see what's going on. Okay, so first I want to see what's happening here and then do it again. Is the listener on? Let's click in the listener and say, let's delete. Okay, so now we're here. Our get has the task delete in the ID 3, right? So we're expecting basically to end up here in this one. Let's see if that's the case. It is the case, right? So now we're executing the next step. So now we want to step into. So now we're here in the Isprižni, so here we require once. Okay, let's go on. Now here's the update happening. Let's look at the SQL quickly and see how that works. That's a statement. Okay, update. And where ID and status is 1. I'm not actually 100% positive whether or not that has a status here. Oh yeah, it does. Okay, sure. Okay. Next. Okay, then we execute the prepared statement. Okay, so far so good. So that's a PDO statement that works. Then we set a session. Where are you closing that, by the way? You don't. So you redirect after here, so that's why it's not an issue, but I would recommend closing the statement when you're done. Okay, so far so good. Next. Now we set the session. So what we don't have now is the possibility to see whether or not that query worked, right? So we set the status to 0, then delete it at now where ID is ID and status is 1. Okay. So, and here we're going to get to the redirect. Okay. And then we're basically done. Okay. So, jumping into it again. So, yeah, as you can see, this should have in theory worked. So the only issue that we have is probably a database one. So the question is, okay, why didn't it delete? And that is now actually the question. Let me actually look at this quickly and see what the test looks like. Test is 64. Status is 1. Created at, deleted at is null. Okay, and what we're doing here is where ID and status is 1. Okay, set status is 0. So if I remember correctly, we did not get 64, did we? Yeah. We did not get 64. Whoops, where are we? Hello? What's happening? Okay. Did we stop listening? Oh yeah, we did. Okay. What ID did we get? We got the D3. Now that's interesting, right? Because that doesn't exist. Okay. Now that's a far cry from 64. Okay, so we're passing in the wrong one. So let's go to the, what was it called? This one. So let's see in our iteration. Where are we iterating? Here. Yes, of course. So here you're giving in the index, which of course is kind of pointless. I don't know why I didn't see that before. So that will of course just give you the position, but what you want to put in here is of course this. The actual ID. Right? And then stop listening. And then it should work like a charm. Delete. Yeah, see? That's the actual culprit. Okay. So what we, yeah, so from a cleanup process, yeah, I would, that's basically what I would do, right? I would basically say, okay, rewrite the this you also don't need. What is this? Okay, JS, is that even defined? It is not. So none of the stuff you need. What you can do now is to make something pretty, right? And say, hey, let's maybe instead of a simple return, basically create like maybe a modal, right? Where you say, hey, why not having something nice? Let's create a modal maybe here, right? Where we say modal, and we're gonna make that super simple. Say style display none. Actually, not now while we're actually operating on it. And then here we say modal content. Yeah. Modal content. And here we say, I don't know, somewhat, right? So here's something that you basically want to do. And then you can basically say, okay, you make this a little bit prettier. So in this very stupid way, right? Let me write this inline here quickly. And say, okay, so dot modal has a position of fixed and has a top of 0 and a left of 0. Oops. Yeah, like that. And then maybe a width of 100% and a height of 100%. And then it has a background of RGBA 000, I don't know, 0.7 or 0.6. Okay, and our dot modal content then has something like a, let's make this hard for now, width of 400 pixels. Top is or I don't know, maybe 60 pixel. Actually, now that I think of it, let's make this more dynamic. So this is 80%, and then you say this whole thing has a position of absolute, and so then here you say, okay, left, why do I keep doing that? Left is a calculated value of, I don't even need that. I'm going to calculate that in my head. It's just 10%. And then here you say top is, yeah, I don't know. Let's make that something hard and say 100 pixel. Okay. And then, so what you then have in theory, let me see if that works somehow. Yeah, that works somehow. Question is, where's the modal content? Oh, it's right here. Okay, so here you then say basically, okay, background is white. Padding is 12. Border radius is 7. And box shadow is gray. And maybe something like 3 pixel, 4 pixel, 2 pixel. Yeah, something like that. Right, and then here you have, I don't know what, something like this. And then you have some form of button. That's a, let's just confirm. And then you basically pass the ID here on, right? And present the whole thing as a modal here. So delete confirm. And then we basically say, let's pass in the ID here. And here we have an ID. And then here we basically toggle the modal. And say, so this stuff here is something that we're basically going to paste into our modal. Make that an A. ID. We don't even have to do that. I'm going to do that directly in there. I'm going to do that directly in here so we can use the modal for anything we want to. And here we say display none. And then, because then you can also do the what you want it to do, right? With the what's it called? With the cancel one. Content. Okay, so this is something like that. And in here you say ID. Okay. So here we add another one. And then here we basically say right. So we say here toggle modal. And then here constant modal. We say document get element by, no, that's not, we didn't give it an ID, we gave it a class. Right. document, let's say query selector dot modal, toggle modal, and then we say modal style dot display equals modal dot style dot display equals none, then block, otherwise none. Okay, and here's basically your cancel, and the only thing that you do here is you have an on click of toggle modal. Okay. And then the only thing that we're going to do here is to say we have a modal content. That is modal content. And so here we have our template. And then we have our, in that case, what we want to do is we want to say, okay, toggle modal. And before that, we want to say, we want to add the content to the modal content, right? So modal content dot inner HTML, let's just make this super quick and dirty, is content. Okay. So let's see if that looks better. Oops. Hold on. Okay. What's happening here? Oh. That's happening here. Okay, so here they're unstyled for now, right? But there's here my, okay, I need the button needs to, that doesn't work like that. That needs to be a button. So that one I can basically remove. Here. And here, let's do this differently and say, we don't really care. We don't really care. The only thing that we do care is that in the top here we have an event, and we say event prevent default. Okay. So, are you sure? Whoops. We could trigger that too early. Okay, then never mind. Then we're gonna redirect. What the hell? Cancel. Oh, that's funny. That is funny. Now, why is that the case? Right here in, no, sorry, we don't even have to look at this. In our on click, so that doesn't work. That doesn't work at all. I was thinking too much like a framework. So this needs an event listener, which is kind of, which is kind of painful. But I also don't want to do it. So what I'm going to do instead is this. make this super simple and say, well, simply reload. And then where are we? Says num. Yeah. Sure. App says num. Okay, I've not written that correctly. Says num. Says num. App says num. Ah, I know why, because now I need to be careful that I always have the ending slash here, right? Okay. Fair enough. And let's delete it. Okay. Okay. So now naturally, you know, like some kind of classes, I don't know, are using, what are you using? Let me look at this, at the header here, if I can find it. Okay, it's actually just a CSS file directly. Reset CSS. Nav backlink head. Okay, says link hover. Let's see if we can find anything of use. No. Okay. I leave styling up to you. I leave styling up to you. And then, but you get the basic principle. Now, from a high level, the question is, do you really want to do it that way, right? So if as soon as you find yourself that you're writing JavaScript to pass over something, you might want to basically say, well, why not using an API to do this? Right? So that's a little bit the question is like, well, if you're generating any kind of buttons, let's close all. If you're generating any kind of buttons with JavaScript and then say, okay, where's our system? Now I'm basically making a call to a PHP file. Then the question is always, why do you do that on a hard redirect? Right? And I mean, you started an API, which is interesting, I think. But I suppose there's nothing. But what you can do, of course, is if you have, so this, no, that's the wrong one. What is this called again? The delete one. This is this one, right? Yeah. If this is basically your endpoint, then you should always ask yourself, right? And I'm gonna stop deleting stuff here now, but you could always basically say, well, instead of a header location, why don't you just answer as a JSON? And then you have a cleaner flow. So what I mean by that is if I just ignore any of that for now and basically say, okay, so if I say header and then here I basically say, okay, content type, and then I say application JSON. I think that's actually lowercase. Right? And then I have anything. So then I just say echo JSON encode, and then my actual answer. Delete it. Let's maybe like this. Right? Then you have a couple of possibilities. So let's just say I'm visiting that in a browser now. That's a bad gateway because I did not have a PHP interpreter configured for this project. Fair enough. How about now? Okay, that's a 403. Is that because of this guy? Okay. right? You will have to do this absolute. But what you can see is then basically, okay, so you have a couple of possibilities how to interact with the front end then, because you don't really have to leave the page that you're currently on. So as you can see, like right now, this is a 200 return, right? And that's pretty awesome. And then here, if you were to actually query that, right, with like a fetch call, right, you can basically have your whole try thing here and say, okay, so imagine that somewhere here you would actually say, I don't know, let's assume here, you would actually say, okay, fetch, and then you have your delete endpoint of some sort, right? Then return data.json, right, in some sort, right? That then, and so on. So you can basically do all of this here and then make decisions on whether or not you want to reload or not. Because if it didn't work, why would you? So that's just a cleaner infrastructure, and it allows you to basically also debug it easier, right? Because then you would say, so let's just say it didn't work. You can then always set particular headers that would basically, for example, or you don't even have to do that with headers. You can do that on a content base, right? And say, I don't know, right? Do that in a content base if you feel like it. Or have headers like 400s or whatever that would tell you what you can do and what you can't do. So that's something that I would kind of explore as a general pattern, right? Instead of redirecting to different PHP pages where you then always have to be careful. Oops. That that you have all your includes together and so on. But that's a different story. That's a different story. Yeah. So what do you want me to do? Do you want me to get this over to you somehow, or will you be able to reproduce that? I mean, it needs to be cleaned up here, as you can see, and stuff. I can actually do that here already. A bit of cleanup stuff. And okay, cool. Right, because yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Well, the next time we're gonna start with building our own well, I don't even know how to call it, but a code testing platform with Neon 3. That's going to be super exciting. And everybody voted for it, so I'm excited to see that coming through. And thanks for watching. And